And welcome everybody in here to another edition of the Football Stories radio show, live here on Facebook, on YouTube, and here from Ridley Park, Pennsylvania. I am Matt Santoleri. To the left of me, we got Al Thompson, our editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, host here of the radio program. We got Tom Kelly filling in for Big Al Zafiri, producing our show.
What's up, guys?
We've had him on here before, doing both here, double duty here, co-hosting as well.
Can't hear anything. We've already had our... Still can't hear anything. And testing, 1, 2, testing. There you go.
You're coming through. There you go.
And can you hear me now?
Yep.
And we've already had our heart attack earlier today, but so it's been settled. A lot of behind-the-scenes scrambling here. But all's well. And I do want to remind you that if you are thinking of moving up to your next level home, if you are, would you like to have your next home locked in before selling your current home? Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group puts you at the front of the line on the best homes, and they even find their sellers beautiful homes that are not on the market yet. And Nancy guarantees to sell your home, so if you have your eye on that next home, you will be able to buy it with no worries. Plus, with Nancy Kowalik's buyback guarantee, if you don't love your home, she'll buy it back from you within the 18 months of their agreement. In addition, for every transaction that Kowalik's team closes, a portion of the funds always goes back to the community. So by hiring Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group, not only will you be hiring or selling your home with a 5-star rated team that's #1 in South Jersey and guarantees your satisfaction, you'll also be giving back to the community. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562. Call them today and start packing. Nancy and seller must agree on price and timing. And good evening and welcome to Football Stories Facebook Live. We have lots to talk about tonight as usual. And, Rock Hoffman's, he has this personal curse he has placed on himself about preseason NFL football. He just can't stand it. And so we're going to talk about it the whole show.
There we go.
Just to tick him off in case he's listening. But we do have Dr. Stephen Conicello will be calling in at 6:15, so it's not long. And he is a chiropractor from Coatesville. Has a great practice down there. So we'll be talking to him about that. And we want to talk to him about high school stuff because, this is the first time in a long time, well over a year, that high schools are pretty much allowed to go do their thing.
Yeah.
So I was driving by Interboro High School today, where they're not the high school, but where their practice facility is, and the teams out there. I haven't seen them out there in a while, so just talking to them about the kind of do's and don'ts and things like that. So, and then Dr. McMillan will be here at 7 o'clock, and we got all kinds of crazy stuff to talk to him about. So. With regards to injuries and whatever, but a lot of people are going to be happy to see or to be watching tomorrow night. They just put a story out from a press conference from the coach. He kind of hinted that you're going to see Devontae Smith tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it because as a Patriots fan, I got myself some tickets for this game, so I'll be down there at the Lincoln Financial Field to watch the game there live and to be able to get a look there at Devontae Smith in his first game action. That should be some awesome stuff there. And the one cool thing is that obviously yesterday in the second joint practice with the Patriots, he was able to actually go out there and run some of the team drills and be out there on the field. Wasn't targeted. I don't know if that was like a conscious effort, I think, by the Eagles, maybe to just make sure, hey, we want you to run your routes, get your feet underneath you, but we don't want to put you in any compromising situations where, you could, further that injury that you were kind of playing through here. So maybe that was the case. But one of the things that, kind of popped up in some of the notes there was, how crisp the Eagles offense really looked against the New England Patriots in most of these joint practices.
Making some big-time catches,
including Devontae Smith, even not being targeted, consistently winning routes and being in places where, if that, again, was the way that they were going about it, if they wanted to throw Devontae Smith's way, I mean, he got open. And so, in game action, hopefully tomorrow night for Eagles fans, they see a little bit of that too.
Yeah, and both Joe Flacco and Jalen Hurts looked very good in the last week.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that Hurts is really starting to grasp the offense,
the
new offense. And, and again, he's playing against the ones on a regular basis, more so than Joe Flacco is. So it's going to take him a little bit longer to get acclimated, but he definitely, you can just feel it. You can just see it in his face. You can see it in his, just his whole demeanor. And I believe we do have a soundbite here from Jalen Hurts, just talking about. Do you have it there? Hurts talking about why he likes to practice and how valuable practice is.
Yes, sir. I think by the day, I've always kind of mentioned it, but I've talked about how repetition brings confidence and it brings comfort, and it's a real thing. And I see it in all of the receivers. I see it in everybody. The more reps they get in the offense, the more we're being coached, the better we are. So it's always an uphill climb, and we just want to continue to.
And that got cut off a little bit too early. But it's when these press conferences going on, you have the tent, is the weight room, which is outside during the summer, is in this big, huge tent, and they start blasting the music. You can kind of hear it a little bit in the background there. And then, for some reason, the landscaping people didn't get a memo that there's a press conference going on. So this giant grass cutter comes just rolling by. Like, you ever watch those where they show the big ship going by real slowly in the video? That's what it was. And everybody's turning around like, this guy's got his headset on. So he's oblivious to the fact that he's, like, destroying a press conference. You know? So, but anyway. But you can see, he says repetitions brings comfort.
Yeah.
I love that term. It brings comfort because you feel relaxed. You feel that, and he has all these weird little terms that he brings up.
Oh, he's definitely got the isms kind of down, when it comes to this stuff. I remember last week in the conference, I think it might have been either after the Steelers game or maybe after the first practice, coming back from the Steelers preseason game, he had a remember the Titans quote that he kind of threw out there. It just and it just kind of flew by a lot of people's heads, but people were kind of shifting it out there and throwing it up like that was remember the Titans quote. Like he just kind of living by those mantras there, and it's like that's the stuff that you love about Jalen Hurts because you can tell with the intangibles, the way he carries himself as a leader, whether it just be on the football field or just in daily life, people gravitate towards him. People want to hear what he has to say. People want to follow him into battle. It seems like there's a growing sentiment around the locker room that people are on Jalen Hurts and on the Jalen Hurts train, even though Sirianni hasn't necessarily said he is the starter. He's getting every rep with the first team, and he's going through it, so it's kind of obvious that he is. Jordan Schultz from ESPN tweeted this out the other day and said there's a fast-growing sentiment around Eagles players that Jalen Hurts is undoubtedly the franchise quarterback. His work ethic, intangibles, and overall skill level have captured the entire locker room. Players I've spoken with are constantly blown away by Hurts on and off the field. I mean, are some really big praises that are being thrown out there about Jalen Hurts, a guy who I think we still have some questions about what his ceiling could be as a quarterback, but every other bit of the pie that you want to see kind of marked off in your franchise quarterback going forward has been marked off by Jalen Hurts. The way he's carried himself, the way he's worked out in this offseason, working out with Lane Johnson down there at his complex, and going all the way through into training camp and just saying the right things, doing the right things. He's had some downs, but he's pretty much bounced back up. And these last couple practices against the Patriots, I think, have really shown, that stock up for Jalen Hurts. And we just hope that we see that going forward into the preseason game. I thought last week he performed pretty well. I think he got a raw deal with a couple of drops there that really killed some of the drives in that Steelers game. I thought for the most part he managed pretty well. A couple of the throws that he made, specifically the first completion, it was like if those are completions that are going to be available to him during the season, whether that's Sirianni scheming it up or Jalen Hurts just seeing the field better, the chains are going to move. And this team could put up some points. And we know the strength is on the lines and the
Your
defense.
Your dad's been coaching you all morning.
It is. I know. I mean, it's just again. I don't think that they're a favorite to win the NFC East, but what team really jumps out to you, right? I mean,
Dak Prescott is not playing right now.
Right, he's not playing right now. I mean,
they were the front runners, right?
My favorite thing I think over the last week since we've done this was the Dallas Cowboys tweet where it was like, "Don't panic, don't worry, everybody. Dak Prescott's getting an MRI," and it was like, for anybody who's not trying to press the red alert, don't worry button, maybe don't say, don't worry, don't panic. Like
getting an MRI today.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of setting it up. So Prescott hasn't really been playing. We don't know what he's going to be coming back. Washington we know has a great defensive unit, but offensively,
Huge
still a lot of
question mark,
questions, with Fitzpatrick, even though some of the young players they have or skill positions are good. The guy getting them the ball is an up-and-down player, right? We've seen highs with Fitzpatrick. We've seen lows with Fitzpatrick. We don't know what version they're going to get. And the Giants are ultimate wild cards because, Daniel Jones, we don't know if he's going to be any good. Saquon Barkley, we don't really know if he's any healthy. Like, all of these big question marks. So it is a wide open race still for the NFC East. And, again, too early to say before, week one or anything like that. But, there should be, I think, a feeling around the Philadelphia fan base of a why not us, and that kind of thing, because there isn't a ultimate team that's really popping out here that's showing like, we should feel inferior. We shouldn't feel like we have a chance. This really feels like a lot like last year, but hopefully all the teams are, record-wise a little bit better than it was last year. But it seems like they're all just kind of grouped together and probably going to finish within a game and a half, 2 games of each other.
It's going to be a rock fight the whole year. I don't think there's anybody's going to run away with it.
Exactly. I think health obviously is the big concern. And going into this season, the Eagles really trying to turn the page on their injury woes of the past. But health with Dak Prescott and Saquon Barkley, there are concerns across the NFC East. So it's not just an Eagles-specific thing. So, like I said, I think just optimistically, you should feel good of where you're sitting right now as an Eagles fan, seeing the things that you've seen so far from training camp and from that first preseason game.
Yes, and I want to see Devontae Smith. I want to, fans will finally get to see him kind of do his thing. And the guy just floats through the air.
Yeah.
You can tell he has that gift to play wide receiver, and it just watching him in drills. Again, I still go back to when the first time that Merrill Reese saw him at a practice field, he just was gushing over him. He said he seems to before he got hurt, the scrimmages we saw him in, he was he just seems to make himself bigger when he's out there on the field, and that's something that people learn. I thought McNabb was great at that. A 6'2" quarterback played a lot bigger than he really was.
Yeah,
and we still have to see whether Jalen Hurts can do that or not.
Yeah,
with all as good as he's looked recently, he still doesn't have that ability where he plays bigger.
Yeah. And the big thing with Jalen Hurts, which was the same question going into this year, is, last year we saw it in spurts, but it was a really small sample size, right? Like, we won't know if Jalen Hurts is the guy week 1. We won't know if he's the guy week 4. It's going to take week 8, week 9, week 10 for us to really kind of believe in this and kind of see that consistency really take place with him. With Devonta Smith, it's that thing where, he has that alpha in him, that ability to kind of come on out and show, I'm the guy, like I know I'm the guy and I'm playing up to that standard, which is what you want to see from your young wide receiver coming in that way. But that's a tough spot to come in. You don't really see, wideouts year 1 come out and make a mark like that. Like, wide receivers and corners, those are positions that do usually take a couple of years to really get your feet underneath you. So when you have a guy like Justin Jefferson last year who played as well as he did as a rookie, or DK Metcalf who played as well as he did as a rookie, those are more, exceptions to the rule, not stuff that you normally see. So the, at least the optimistic thought that you might have a guy like that here in Philadelphia, that should be something to be excited about.
Yeah, no question. And they also have, Quez Watkins had his big
True,
run
stellar.
last week. He really looked the part.
Yeah, fastest guy as far as miles per hour they timed during the preseason from any play. He had the fastest time recorded, and he was just gone. They had no hope of touching him. It was a very easy play for Joe Flacco to make when Quez Watkins did all the work that he did, and that was awesome to see too.
I want to see finally a quarterback from the last couple of years, other than the backup, which was Nick Foles could throw that pass, that little short pass, and put it on the money. The guy, what happens? He scores, right? Yeah. And we saw that what do you call it?
Joe Flacco?
No. Oh my God, the
Nick Mullins?
No.
Oh,
he just left Indianapolis.
Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz couldn't throw that pass.
Yeah.
And,
or not on a consistent basis, right?
No, and you saw that. How many times we see that play just get screwed up, these screen passes?
Throws it too far ahead or too far behind.
Can Jalen Hurts throw that ball?
Yeah.
It's such a simple little play, but even at the NFL level, we see quarterbacks who just never seem to get comfortable with it. And so I want to see that. But Flacco was, if I had a quarterback to pick of this group right now, to throw that ball for that play, that bubble screen,
Yeah.
it's got to be Flacco.
Well, and then the thing is because that type of play is all about rhythm and timing, right?
Yeah.
It's all about just, you know where the snap is coming. Once the snap gets there, it's a one-step drop, get rid of the ball, and it's just bang, 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 right? And
he called it.
Those are the things where you're looking at Joe Flacco, who at this point in time is more of that game-managing style quarterback. Like, those are the fine-tuning points of quarterback that Joe Flacco still has, right? Yeah. Those things don't really leave you. You know what I mean? No. We saw it with Peyton Manning, down the stretch, and Tom Brady, even Drew Brees, who kind of looked like a shell of himself last year, still could get the ball to Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas on a very regular basis with those types of plays. Those are the things that you do want to see Jalen Hurts adopt because he has those athletic gifts. He can do so much more with his feet. He has probably, again, a better live arm, I think, than probably Flacco has at this point in his career.
Oh, yeah.
But it's those little pieces of playing quarterback. Right, exactly, that still matter. And that is a big thing you do want to see Jalen Hurts take ownership of.
I want to see that. I want to see that kind of play. And but when you look at the receivers that they're going to have is Devonta Smith speaks for itself.
Yeah.
He's a gifted player, and he's a franchise kind of player.
Mm-hmm.
And Travis Fulgham showed a long spurt last year of a guy that can take over a game almost. He did that against the 49ers last year.
Yeah.
And he did it against Pittsburgh. His teammate just couldn't, his defense couldn't keep up with him. And but he showed games. In Baltimore, he had some circus catches in that game. And then you have, you're going to have Miles Sanders. Hopefully he's going to be improved coming out of the backfield. He looks incredible. Maybe we'll get to see him tomorrow night. He has looked really tremendous in practice. And you've also, like I said, Jalen Reagor. Is he going to hey, man, this bus is taking off without me? I just named 3 guys that might be ahead of him at some point.
It's
and you're a first-round pick, Jalen.
It's kind of crazy because Jalen Reagor probably has the 2 best plays of training camp between the catches he's made. Those acrobatic, especially the one he just made in the Patriots practice there on Tuesday. I mean, that was Odell Beckham Jr. up in the air, twisting. Only a handful of guys in the league can make that catch. Then he also had 2 drops, right? And it's those simple plays where it's mentally you're taking yourself out of it. You know what I mean? It reminds you a lot of Nelson Aguilar, right? Of a guy who can make some of the most fantastic plays that you've ever seen. And then those ones that are literally right there in front of you, those gimme plays, are just sometimes a little too tough to make on a consistent basis. So that's a rough one there. You want to see that consistency take place because from the highs, from that ability to be able to high point that ball, show his 97th percentile vert jump that he had coming out of TCU. Again, something that only a handful of guys could do, and probably the only guy on this team that could probably make a catch like that. We just need to see the minutia, the plays that are there in front of you taken advantage of as well. Because if I'm looking at it from right now, I would say your 3 most talented wide receivers at this moment in time are probably Smith, Reagor, and Watkins. Fulgham maybe kind of mixing in there with Reagor depending on what kind of sets and things like that, right? So, I mean, I think Rager's still a part of that conversation, but it is slipping because I think Smith is 1. I think Watkins has been 2.
It doesn't matter what he does at NovaCare in front of 500 season ticket holders who knew somebody to get in there.
Yeah.
Or they bought one of those tents for the training camp. What matters is when you get in front of the lights as Nick Sirianni says, I want to see them under the lights.
Of course.
And when you get a ball that's not great, but it's at the NFL level or even at the high school level, that wasn't that hard of a catch. It was a hard catch, but you're supposed to make that. You're getting paid to make that catch.
Right.
And he dropped it.
Yeah.
And can't happen.
Nope.
He has to catch that 100% of the times. There's no it's okay, it's the numbers. No, he has to make that every single time.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing too, where it's just the room for error, as it goes in the league nowadays, especially with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, you're going to get some volatile play. So when the ball's there, you got to make a play on it, right? Because there might be some times where it's a little low, it's in the dirt, or maybe he overthrows a play or 2 here. So when the ball's on the money and it makes it to you, you got to make those plays in front of you because you live and die with some of the ups and downs of Jalen Hurts. Those plays should always be the ups, and especially with a play like you saw with the Quez Watkins one. It's players like Quez Watkins and Jalen Reagor and even Devonta Smith, who has some great long speed, that are so dangerous with the ball in their hands. And so, part of the struggle here to try to make it easier for Jalen Hurts is to give him some of these throws where the yards after catch are more of the big focal points, and really taking advantage of the athleticism that's inside the skill position group. That only works as well as it does if those skill position players meet you halfway and again make the plays that are in front of them as well. So I would like to see Reagor again do it on Thursday night there and kind of continue what he built on these last couple practices, at least on the joint practice side. But we've got to see that consistency, like you said. And if that consistency comes, well, now we're talking about, again, Fulgham as your wide receiver 4, Arcega-Whiteside now as like wide receiver 5 on the bubble of even making the team or whatever. We're taking those worries that we had of, hey, are we really relying on Arcega-Whiteside to actually break out? You know what I mean? Because going into this year, some of those worries were still there because we didn't know what we had really in Quez Watkins. We didn't know if he was going to step up the way he did, or if Fulgham could come back, or if Reagor could make it back from missing weight and everything he'd had at the beginning of training camp to what he is now. So if we can take those what ifs and really just not have to worry about them as much, they're not weighing on your successes or your failures, and you can just kind of take it as it comes. That just makes everything so much easier for a first-time head coach and a first-time starting quarterback in Jalen Hurts to be able to lead this offense on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, and it was interesting. There wasn't really any fights. I thought there was going to be some fights. The closest they came was on Monday when I was there, and of all people, Jalen Mills, apparently Jordan Mailata and him had a shoving match there for a few seconds, and it was just kind of funny to watch. Yeah. Somebody that big, and I can't imagine when he starts yelling at me, he comes out with that Australian accent.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, don't poke me there, and he went up and just shoves him, and the place goes wild because I know it's
Jalen.
Yeah, it's the Green Goblin.
Right.
And but that was about it.
Right.
It was never really going to break into anything.
No.
But it was just kind of funny.
And it
I'm
seemed
here.
like
I know you, Jordan. I'm in the locker room with you for the last 3 years. So it was pretty funny. But other than that, it was pretty. Well organized. People were arguing that maybe the Patriots were better organized. They were doing drills while the Eagles were still stretching and all this stuff. And I'm like, come on. I mean, how long has Belichick been doing this?
Also,
and it's a rookie head coach.
Right. The other
who
part
got
of
everything right.
Yeah.
Except the score, unfortunately, in his first game. I mean, as far as the mechanics of a game,
right.
He did very well. He didn't blow any timeouts. He didn't no too many men on the field. There was no penalties to speak of, right?
Yeah.
No, they got the plays in on time, right?
Yeah.
And so that was the part I think everybody was looking at. And he said on his Wednesday press conference, or Tuesday press conference the week before the Steelers game, was that I'm looking forward to see how well I do in this stuff because this is my first time.
Yeah.
But he said a lot of it was the same, calling the plays in. He was used to it from Indianapolis, and he has his guys with him. Like he brought a lot of guys from the Colts with him. Mm-hmm. So they kind of know each other. You know what I mean? It's like I'll plug my book. The Gilmore Years. We're doing the layout. We're doing it, and because it's self-published, and I think we know what we're doing. And but because the two of us work together on Football Stories now for years, I mean literally like 5 years, it's just bang, 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 bang. We're knocking it out. We're going to have it done. In fact, we met yesterday, and you can't believe how fast we're getting it done now. It's all written and proofed, and I'm saying that with a like how many typos are people going to find?
Right,
email me about when it comes out. But so I'm saying that with a word of conscience. But my point is that it's just we just locked into Football Stories mode, and it's just boom, 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 and it's going along. So
take some time to get that underneath your feet to build that chemistry.
But if you bring somebody with you like he did that are involved with the calls and getting them out to the players, it is a big help.
100%.
And he's a quarterback guy.
Yeah.
So he knows the personalities, he knows their traits or whatever, maybe more so than Doug Peterson. I don't know. I mean, he played quarterback, obviously.
Yeah.
But was he really considered a quarterback's coach? Because it didn't seem like he had that kind of street cred that Nick Sirianni does coming here with the last couple of quarterbacks he's worked with and the success they've had.
I think with Doug Peterson,
like Phillip Rivers and
it's one of those things to where with Doug Peterson, it was really hard to remove him from Andy Reid.
Luck.
You know what I mean? Or I'm saying like him and Andy Reid. It just felt like anything that was positive kind of felt like it went to Andy, right? Everything that was negative kind of felt like it fell on Doug. And with Sirianni, obviously he's coming from Frank Reich here, and he's been doing, some stuff with him. But because that's a fairly newer coaching tree that's kind of being built up, and the way that people have looked at Sirianni as being not only just a quarterback guru, but also a wide receiver expert too, it feels like there's a certain level of chemistry that is there, where he kind of, again, sees the plays and sees the machinations of the offense through a different lens than maybe Doug did. And also the personalities, right? I mean, Sirianni feels like a little bit more fiery. He feels like he could kind of go and maybe let loose a little bit more than
he
Doug.
Bangs the table when he's in the middle of press conference.
Exactly. So there's a certain level of energy that feels like it's there. Where and again, that's not always everything, right? We're not in a college locker room.
Football's exciting,
but it's exciting, right?
And he says football's exciting, and I get excited, and I'm not going to change for that now that I'm a head coach. He said that the other day, right?
Yeah, so and it's stuff like that you hear out of him, where it feels like you can relate to that a little bit more than maybe Doug, who for better or for worse, would never really throw anybody under the bus, wouldn't really make harsh criticisms of his players, would always kind of take every bullet, take every shot. It feels like with Sirianni, not to say that he's going to just toss somebody out, he feels like he'll tell you how it is, which is just a little different than Doug. Doug felt a little bit more too polished.
And he's inheriting a group of guys there, especially his O-line, which every coach has ever been born from Pop Warner to the pros will tell you that where does the success in football start?
It's in the trenches.
On the O-line. And so that group, the all-pros, the three of them, he's got three all-pros that lead his O-line, and they are firmly behind him. They know how important. They may not really be, but they are certainly, that's the stance that they're taking, is that we're going to back this guy. He is the head coach. And Fletcher Cox, when he comes out, he says, what do you tell the younger guys? He says, remember what you feel, or maybe how much you like Doug. And I liked Doug, he says, Nick Sirianni is the head coach of this football team. Yeah. And that's it. Ends there, and get used to it. Yeah. And so he dramatic. Look at the change at him with press conferences and stuff, the way he talks. And he really does kind of talk to everybody about football.
Right.
It's not like all these little cliches and things that we hear so much that, unfortunately, Jalen Hurts does a lot of.
He does.
Some of them are cute.
Yeah.
But he really says nothing.
Yeah.
He said he did his thing on Wednesday. I have another quote here. We can do it right now if you'd like before we go to break. And we're trying to wait here. Conoscello is driving, Dr. Conoscello, and he has this automated thing. When you text him, comes back on says I'm driving, and then he gives all this stuff about driving. But anyway, so hopefully he's going to call in soon. This is Jalen Hurts talking about how much fun it was having the Patriots here for practice.
I think everything, you have to be optimistic about it all, right? It's about how you see it. Is the glass half empty or is it half full? And every opportunity we have to go out there, whether it's the same looks we're getting or different looks, are we executing? Are we doing the things that we need to do? I talked about a positive and a negative on every play. Regardless of what look they give us, we have to respond the right way offensively and make a positive play out of it. So just doing your job, simply.
And that's, he's going to be a politician when he's done. Because he's talked there for 30 seconds or so and said zero. I mean, he said, well, what's the positives and the negatives, and whether we're getting the same looks or different looks, we still have to do our job. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever, but he's very pleasant when he says it.
Yeah, of course. And like we've come to expect that more from quarterbacks than anything else. There's some quarterbacks who will kind of tell you what it is, but as much personality as Tom Brady shows off the field, in his press conferences, he's just as milquetoast. Aaron Rodgers, for the most part, has always kind of been that way. Obviously, this year he decided his first press conference to throw everybody in the organization under the bus.
Well, he figures, I'm going to either throw nobody under the bus or everybody's going off that cliff.
Exactly.
So
it's just the way it's the way you kind of expect, right? Like you expect your quarterbacks to be more corporate like that and kind of say the right things and not give too much bulletin board material one way or the other. You expect your wide receivers and corners and the more diva centric positions to tell you what they really feel all the time. It's those kinds of things. Like when it comes to just the way that these guys talk, that's kind of what you kind of grow to expect. So I think with Hurts, it is what it is. again, the big thing that I point to is anybody who talks to people within the locker room, they all got Hurts' back, right? Like, everybody there is pointing to Hurts to be the leader of this franchise, whether that be for the year 2021 or the foreseeable future. Everybody has their eggs in that basket.
Yeah, he's got the qualities to be a great leader. Will that be – does he have the ability – as a quarterback,
that's the question that can only be decided with play, right? He can't answer that in a press conference.
No.
He can't do that on a practice field, and he can't really do that in a preseason game. No. He's got to do that when the lights are on, week 1 going forward, and then hopefully come playoff time when the Eagles do eventually get back to where they're supposed to be, the way this roster has been built to be. Then we'll really know who we have in Jalen Hurts, because, that's what we looked at him from college, right? Yeah. Alabama. He wins the national championship. He comes back, another year. He gets benched. Tua gets hurt in that SEC championship game. He shows he has the fortitude when the lights are on to play like that. We just got to see that with an Eagles jersey on his back.
All right, we have to take a break. We'll be back with more after these messages. Our sponsor, Nancy Kowalik, broker-owner at Nancy Kowalik Real Estate. All right, welcome back to Football Stories Facebook Live. Summer is here and it's hot outside. Are you dreaming of a home with a pool? Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group has many homes with pools for sale in the area. Spend your summer at your very own staycation home where you and your family will feel like you are on vacation every day at home. Have a home to sell? Nancy can give you an immediate cash offer on your home. No showings, repairs, or hassles, just cash. Plus, with Nancy Kowalik's buyback guarantee, if you don't love your home, she'll buy it back from you within 18 days. And we're going to go back to that in just a minute because I do believe we have Dr. Conicello on the phone. Doc, are you there?
Hello?
Hey, doctor, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, Doc, can you hear me? Hello? And sorry about that, but we will go back to the Nancy Kowalik real estate message. We're having problems with there's storms all over the place, and the phone lines keep getting cut off. But the Dr. Conicello, are you there?
Hello?
Hello, doctor. Can you hear me?
Doc, can you hear me okay?
Can you hear me? We're here. We are here.
Nah, doesn't seem like it.
And so I'm going to tell him we can hear you. And maybe he'll call back.
Yeah.
But of course, it would happen right in the middle of
a storm like this, you know.
No, middle of
the read.
The read, so sorry about that. But he is from the Agape Institute of Functional Health and Chiropractic, located at the Highlands Corporate Center, 735 Fox Chase, Suite 100 in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. Their phone number there for Agape Institute, and they support Football Stories. The number there is 484-593-0882. And we're having problems with the phone line, and I'm going to try one more time. And do you have any idea why he can't hear us?
I remember last time I think he called, though, he had some issues with the audio as well. So I don't know if it's just the area that he's in off the cell phone, if that might have a little something to do with it as well.
All right. Well, he said it's a real bad storm where he is.
Yeah, so probably is not helping as well. So, yeah, big storms all abound. You got some big ones coming in right now, so hopefully, it kind of clears on up, make way for tomorrow's game there. So some good.
Yeah, because if they hear any lightning, there's no game.
Yeah.
If you're I live 10 minutes from the stadium. If you're somebody who drove from like Reading or something to see the Eagles play, and you get there and there's a lightning bolt, and then you say, "See ya."
That's it.
Sorry about that. And so they've seen some spirited crowds. In fact, I'm glad they caught virtually every guy that was involved in that brawl in Los Angeles. That was disgusting. That
was incredible there, especially the one lady who threw the soda to like really kind of spark the brawl to kind of get it to that was like instigator of the year stuff right there. That was some pretty incredible. Just turned her back. It was like that one meme that you see of like the little girl like standing in front of like the house on fire behind them, and it's like the little girl kind of smiling with like an ice cream cone in her hand. That's basically what it reminded me of. She's just like.
Is he on there now?
Michael Caine said about the Joker. Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Hello?
Dr. Conicello, can you hear us?
Hello?
And, boy, we're having a really hard time. That's a shame.
Sorry, guys. We have a really bad storm over here. I can't hear any of you guys.
Right.
I apologize.
And we'll just try.
Hello?
We can try. We're talking, and you can't hear us. So I just don't want to. Yeah, he's going to go.
It's like a really bad Verizon commercial. It's like, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
No. So, we'll see if we can get the doc back on there. So I'd love to talk to him about some of the stuff that we had planned to talk about here, especially with, injury news there with the Eagles, too, along with some of the stuff at the high school. It's kind of getting back to it. I know we would have some good nuggets to give us there when it comes to the topics that we have for him. But you say just hopefully stay safe out there, with the storm kind of coming around. Don't want to get you all caught up out there, in a bad situation.
All right. Anyway, but we're going to have Dr. Sean McMillan at the top of the hour to talk about some stuff and more related a little bit to the Eagles. But we may have some other things to talk to him about. And a weird thing, look, Elliot Shore Parks of WIP put a message out there that Jake Elliott had an ankle injury, but he didn't know which ankle.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Kicker, so it's like he quarterback with a bad hand. Well, which hand?
Right. And for a kicker, it really doesn't matter because both ankles are extremely.
One's a plant foot, one's the boom.
Exactly. So you're going to need both of them. So obviously, talking to Doc about just the mechanics of if it's a plant foot, what can he do to kind of work around that to maybe still have some of the distance and the velocity that he needs in his kicks, and obviously if it's his kicking foot, how do they manage that, all the way around? So it'll be interesting to see if he plays. I know it's day to day as far as the diagnosis on him, out there, and does that mean that they're gonna get an emergency kicker to come on in? Is it Aaron Sipos, the rookie punter? Does he take over some kicking duties if that's necessary
for the exhibition season? If they know he's only going to be out a week,
right?
Why would they go do that?
Exactly.
And,
so be interesting to see which way they roll.
But
there.
You have a new holder, so it is important.
It is.
And but they were incredible last week, and 3 for 3, all long distance.
Yep.
47, 47, and 50. So it was a great night. And having played soccer for 35 years, I know that's a violent thing you do when you strike the ball like that. And it takes years to get that snap in your foot. And I know I played my sophomore year in college with a bruised big toe, and although you're hitting with your instep, it's you can't, it's a mental thing, and it definitely saps away your. So if he has any kind of a sprain down there in an ankle, I would think your plant foot you can do some things to kind of get around that. But if it's your kicking foot, there's just no way getting around it.
There's no way around it,
Unless
right?
he's Chris Barr and he can kick left-footed.
Exactly.
But there was only one guy I know, and he was the only one I know that could do that. So I don't know. We'll see. Do you have that? Do you have access to the to a regular line to see if there's any news on Jake Elliott?
Yeah,
I'll try it here.
I just looked up, Jake Elliott to see what was going on as far as diagnosis-wise goes. Dave Spadaro just put out a story today at 5:20, and no actual diagnosis on which foot it was. It just says, in case you didn't notice, Jake Elliott is listed as day-to-day with an ankle injury. If that injury prevents him from kicking against New England, Aaron Sipos would have the assignment of kicking off and attempting field goals in addition to his punting duties, with Nick Mullins being the holder on field goals and PATs. So, that looks like that's the emergency plan that's already in place for the Eagles, depending on how this Jake Elliott situation goes. I mean, he just signed up.
I'm Nick Mullins. I'm like all for this, right?
It's the way of making a roster, right?
A job, yeah.
Because it sure as heck ain't off the throws he was making last week. That's
God.
sure.
He looked lost the other day.
Yeah.
And, he was, it was. I always thought the fans got it wrong with McNabb when he threw the balls down, but he was taught to do that when he was a kid to avert. If you can only throw the ball where the receiver can get it, some quarterbacks like Eli Manning always do high, and he picked a spot. Well, if it's tipped, guess what? You're getting picked off.
That's it.
If you throw it low, so the guy has to dive like a goalie.
The guy's got a caller on the line.
All right, we have somebody on the line. Hello? Hello?
Still not coming through.
I guess not. We're having problems with the phone lines here today.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Al's troubleshooting it from his side,
Okay.
seeing if it's anything that's on our end.
But yeah, with Nick Mullins, 1 for 5, 4 yards. That's a 0.8 average, if anybody was keeping track at home. 2 interceptions, and also got sacked. You have
some brutal
you have 5
interceptions, too.
dropbacks.
It's like you weren't just seeing
3 of them
ghosts.
go absolutely horrible.
He wasn't seeing ghosts. He looked like he was blindfolded.
Yeah, I mean,
and,
obviously we know it's tough when you're playing behind,
4
your
years.
3rd string, 4th string, whatever kind of offensive line or anything that's out there. Obviously you're not necessarily getting the cream of the crop, but you're also not playing against the cream of the crop. So you would expect there to not be those issues.
4 years, you can figure things out,
right?
When you have a tough situation. So
you have a 0. He had a 0 rating, 0. It's just not even tracked. Honestly, probably be negative if it was, because that was just not a good showing. So I honestly doing some 53-man roster projections there. Unless Nick Mullins can really nail this job down as being a holder for whatever reason,
Brady's history.
Yeah, it's a 2-quarterback job right now, but Jalen Hurts and Joe Flacco, and that's really it. And that's if I'm the Eagles, that's probably what I'm doing anyway, because I'm trying my best to try to figure out a way maybe to hold on to an extra running back or an extra wide receiver, especially because I think the running back room is pretty solid.
Hey, and no linemen, because you've got what happened last year?
Yeah.
I mean, they were looking, they were down at the Broad Street subway, looking for big guys.
Jariga's already gone. Casey Tucker already gone.
We talked
Two
about
of the drop-offs.
Remember we said that you can't make the club in the tub?
Kerryon Johnson, injury diagnosis, also got cut. Those are the 3 cuts that had happened, fairly recently for the Eagles. So, they're already whittling down that offensive line group, trying to figure out what's going on that front. The big injury news that we got, I guess today, was that Tyree Jackson is going to be out 8 to 10 weeks with a back injury now. He's going to get surgery done. I guess during the joint practices, he had a play where he went up in the end zone drills for a grab. I guess they ruled him out of bounds anyway, but he fell pretty hard on his back and didn't really practice after that. And so, nobody really knew what was going on. And it seems like he's going to need surgery, which really stinks because it felt like, especially from training camp and even seeing him out there with Joe Flacco and the second teamers when everything kind of switched on over, it looked like Tyree Jackson had a pretty good beeline on maybe the third tight end gig, as being somebody who is a quarterback to tight end convert, but had really been Joe Flacco's most trusted weapon throughout all of training camp, and the tight ends having such focus. The whole training camp with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert being, Jalen Hurts is, some of his favorite targets, especially after Smith's injury. That really stinks for Tyree Jackson. So it'll be interesting if they long-term IR him to just bring him back come next year, or if they find a roster spot for him to then put him on the IR after that, or the PUP, so that he can bring him back. Yeah, he's big. I mean, 6'7". I mean, the guy's huge. Yeah. In the joint practices there, he made a nice touchdown grab and spiked it pretty hard. No, but I get all my intel, Al.
I mean, play-by-play on this thing. How did you?
I get my intel, Al. Don't worry, I got my sources.
Wow.
And so you stay plugged in, on Twitter to everybody else who's down there, and them, and obviously you hear it from 2, 3, 4 different people. It happened. You just hear from one side. People have some hyperbole, and maybe stick to their guys, and maybe shun some others. But
so you knew about the Jordan Mailata and the
little scuffle with
you
Mills.
Heard that
well, it seemed like with Jordan Mills too. It was like from the one thing that I heard from him was like you could tell. In all the practices, Mills had like maybe a little extra juice to him. It's kind of like, hey, I'm playing against my old team. Like I got to do it. Heard Nelly had a little bit of the same, but not quite the same as Mills did.
But anyway, but it's over. They're going to be leaving after tomorrow night. So it'll be down at Lincoln Financial Field. I believe it's 7:30, and we'll see. I'm not impressed. I mean. With Cam Newton or
Mac Jones
either one of them. I don't think Mac Jones is 6'3", but that was a little chatter that was going on the sidelines. Is he really 6'3"? But who knows? But then again, Cam Newton is a pretty tall guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, is there somebody on the phone? Hello. Hello.
It's Al. He's messing with it.
Oh.
Guys. There we got you.
Al Safiri.
Oh, cool. Yeah, what's going on, guys?
How are you? Can you hear us?
Good. Just calling in to say, I'm calling in to say hi, and let's go Birds.
Well, we had problems with the doctor. He couldn't. We could hear him, but he couldn't hear us. So he said.
All right. Well, I think you're good now because I can hear you guys loud and clear.
Oh,
that's what I like to hear. How's vacation, Al?
I got 4 kids and a wife. What are you talking about? What's a vacation?
How is living somewhere else for the next week?
Living close to the beach. Yeah, it's better.
All right, there you go. Perfect. That's what I like to hear.
All right,
Gentlemen. I'll let
so
you.
You're gonna have those big. You're gonna have those big striped, like oversized shorts down to your knees with the sleeveless shirts on top, a real shoey down there. With flip-flops?
No, I stick out like a sore thumb. I got the dad hat on.
Nice.
I got the sunscreen on my nose. I'm good to go.
There we go.
Yeah,
that's what I like to hear.
Yeah. And,
I got my Eagles gear on. We're ready to go.
All right. Well, enjoy yourself.
I already got a few go birds as I walk by down the street.
There you go. Can't be too hard down there at the shore.
No. I'm in Ocean City, Maryland, so there's a few Eagles fans down here.
Yeah.
A lot of Steelers fans. Very odd.
See, it is weird there at the Steelers because you're really honestly in Ravens country, and you would expect
Ravens
there to be the opposite, right? No Steelers fans because that's the hated rivalry of the Ravens. But I guess it's very similar here into Delaware County, where you see your great patch of Cowboys fans hanging around everywhere. Like, how the heck did that happen?
You're only a few miles away from Delaware, so Delaware you can be pretty much whatever you want to be, I guess.
That's it,
All right. Well,
it's a dream. That should be our new slogan. I'll write John Carney. Where you could be anybody you want to be. Delaware.
All right, guys. Have a great one.
You too.
Got it. Anyway, all right. Well, the phones work. We're going to have Dr. McMillan at 7:00, and like I said, the Eagles tomorrow night. It's preseason game 2. You wonder how long is Jalen Mills. This is going to be kind of an old school preseason. Because now if you have a franchise quarterback, he doesn't play at all.
Right.
But the old school was, no matter who the starter was, they only played a series or two the first week. They played into the second quarter the second week. Third week, they played over into the second quarter. And then the fourth week, you dumped everybody.
Yeah.
For the people trying to make the roster. So
this is kind of that big showing game, right? That's what we at least expect to see.
The third week would be at the Jets.
Yeah.
Tradition is where... I always say this, if you're not interested in that last game where it's all the no names,
right?
Think of this, that what would it be like if I had $1 million on this table, and there's the three of us here, right? And only one of us gets to keep that $1 million, and it's just the three of us.
Yeah.
It's $1 million right there, right? And who wins the day? I think that's pretty intense stuff.
Definitely is. Especially with the way I have it now, because you have, the before you really whittled it down week after week after week, and now it's really just like, max exodus. You know what I mean? What's going on? So it's like, that time to make an impression is like, you really don't know until you know, right? And so it's like, it's not just that constant looking up. All right, I made it one more week. It's just, did I make it or did I not, right?
Yeah.
And so every day is an audition in that way to kind of come out this to try to show it. And, the big one we want to see, obviously, is Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, and Devonta Smith, and see if the offense works well. On the opposite side, though, even just, looking at it from a different perspective, the Patriots here, between, like you said, Cam Newton, Mac Jones, weren't all too impressed. Well, the Patriots are trying to figure out between two guys who their starter's going to be for real. Because, we know with the way that the Eagles have kind of played it, they haven't said Jalen Hurts is the starter, but when you're taking all the first-team reps and, you're pretty much the guy who they're putting out there to talk for the media, like, you are the starter, right? He is the presumptive starter.
Yeah.
In New England, it really is a coin flip right now, especially after last week's preseason game against Washington. It seemed like Mac Jones had built up some ground that maybe some people didn't think was going to be there so early for him to be able to do. And so, your defense, if you're looking at the first team and the second team defense for the Eagles, you're pretty much the difference maker in who's probably going to be the presumptive starter in New England as far as their quarterback thing goes. So there's a lot of good storylines going into this preseason game, and also just to see who are some of those guys down the depth chart who can make a name, because in that Steelers game, you saw when the starters and the fringe starters, the twos were out there, they had a 13-0 lead. The offense looked like it was working out pretty well, save for some drops.
Communicated with its team, with its players in the field on both sides of the ball.
Exactly. Defense looked stellar against Mason Rudolph, to start the game off, and really looked pretty good against Dwayne Haskins for most of it as well. And then when the third and fourth stringers went in, that's when you saw, really the bottom drop out on the Eagles side, on what they had. So, let's see if there's some of those guys who can grab a roster spot. Let's see if some of those guys can kind of maybe stake a claim here, because last week it really was bad, when those backups went in. And there wasn't too many people to kind of look at and say that guy looked good, because they all kind of looked bad as a unit.
Yeah. I was hoping at the very beginning of the game when the Eagles brought out 3 serious captains.
Yeah.
I think it was Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey, maybe,
mm-hmm.
and then they just sent out Mason Rudolph, and I thought, would this be fun if one of them just had their helmet in their hand and just swung to like clock him in the head, and just for like old time's sake, smack good old Mason above the head with a helmet. We know he can take a hit in the face with a helmet.
We do. I mean, if you say you're taking it from Myles Garrett, that's a big, strong
Yeah,
boy.
how about it?
You know, you can take it from pretty much anybody else in the league there. Fletcher Cox might be pushing it, but of all the other guys, I think he'd be all
wonder
right.
if they thought that, like, man, this would be so funny.
I mean, the talk, again, obviously it was someone got squashed, whatever, but the conversation around why Mason Rudolph got hit in the head with a helmet was that there might have been some kind of
he definitely
derogatory something that was thrown out there.
He started that fight.
Exactly.
He did.
So,
and Myles Garrett walked into that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll go my old soccer days, but we got taught like dirty tricks by our coach was like grab his shorts right before the corner kick, and because he's going to get ticked off and he's going to start swinging at your arm.
Yep.
And the refs, all they're going to see is the retaliation.
That's all they're going to see.
And so it goes on in basketball. We see it all the time, right?
Yep.
So Mason Rudolph, he got the worst end of that because he got the crap beat out of him,
Yeah.
But as far as who got the blame at first, he definitely started it. There's no question, And some of the guys, like the commentators, were kind of maybe they knew him that he was kind of like that, because they were like the ex-players were saying. Myles Garrett didn't do that. He got suckered into that.
Yeah.
It was one of the funniest. Funniest. Someone started swinging at him with it.
Oh my
goodness!
goodness.
It was awesome. So but anyway, tell me that people don't think that every time they see him, they don't think about that fight.
I mean, I know I do.
Just how ridiculous it was.
I definitely don't think about his quarterback play.
No.
So,
which is endearing.
Right.
And if they do if anybody ever does like his story, they're always going to bring up what he's most known for.
Right.
And is that he got
most known for getting clocked in the head with a helmet and
His own
losing your
helmet,
starting job to Duck Hodges. So those are the two things that we're most known here for Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that kind of is incredible to me too, because obviously they're trying their best with this whole Dwayne Haskins revival to get somebody who might have more talent. They have to get it out of Dwayne Haskins in a more consistent way too. But Mason Rudolph has been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Roethlisberger has looked like a shell of himself for some time and has been hurt for majority of it as well. For the the Steelers to not invest really at the quarterback position since they drafted Mason Rudolph in 2018.
Yeah.
It's pretty surprising to me that they've kind of gone into this whole thing of just, all right, well, whenever Roethlisberger walks away, we're going to suck anyway. I mean, I don't know what their anticipation is.
That is interesting because they're going to end up next year. They're not going to have any quarterback.
Right.
They're not going to have anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's done, Roethlisberger.
I mean, I thought he was done last
year.
year.
He's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. He's going to get knocked out of there. Something's going to happen.
I mean, and it's surprising to me, too. I get it. He's a veteran. They're trying to keep him healthy in here. But it's with the way that last season ended, you're not going to get him a series or two.
They were 11-0, and then they just went right in the tank.
Something to show
he
can do it a bit. But again, that's just the stuff that kind of again just surprises me because you're sending out Najee Harris. I know he's a rookie, but he's probably your starting running back out there in these games. Chase Claypool, second-year player, but probably your number one receiver, even though Juju's still on the team. Chase Claypool is definitely the best talent-wise of team he's playing. He's taking snaps.
The Eagles last year.
I mean, we had four touchdown game in that game. I mean, that was incredible. Nate Carey. Nate Carey on Chase Claypool to end that game was just a decision to make by the roster there. That's where they had Nate Carey one-on-one coverage on Chase Claypool in the slot. And it was literally Nate Carey was in front of him for half a second, and otherwise there was 10 yards of space between Chase Claypool and Nate Carey. So it's things like that where I wonder, I get it. It's a weird off season. We're going into this year. You're trying to keep people healthy, but I always get weirded out when teams don't put their starters out there for just a little bit of preseason, right?
Yeah.
Shake the rust off a little bit. Know what it looks like to take some snaps. But it looks like we got Dr. McMillan on the phone.
We have Dr. McMillan is on the phone.
Guys, how we doing?
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, yeah.
We had a problem with a caller earlier that couldn't hear us. So apparently Al Safiri, our producer, who's on vacation from Ocean City, Maryland, actually got it done somehow. But anyway,
Ocean City, New Jersey. You're a dry guy. I know Al's Fury.
So, but Doc, we're exchanging some notes there, and a weird thing is going on with the Eagles that has been confirmed by Dave Spadaro that that Jake Elliott, their kicker, has an ankle injury, but they're not even Dave Spadero's not telling you which one. Isn't that odd? Why wouldn't they tell you which one it is? You know,
you wonder if it's gamesmanship at some point. You know what I mean? You know, sometimes they just don't want to release some things, but you know, everything's listed as day to day. I did not see if they brought anyone in besides Elliott to camp, which would make you think that maybe it's a little more than what you think it is. Did they bring anyone in that you know of today, Al? Or?
No. It seems like
Connor's going to be doing all the kicking duties tomorrow
that's what
night.
Dave Spadero said is their emergency plan.
So to me, that's not very alarming. Then it's one of those things where it is what it is. Like, give them a couple of days, let it sort of declare itself, and then if they have to go hunting, then you start to think, all right, well, maybe it's a little more serious than we thought.
Yeah, and as a former soccer player, I know that that's a violent act when you're kicking hard like that. That was kind of my job, was goal kicks, which is very similar to kickoffs. And I can't imagine if he has some kind of an ankle issue, that how it becomes a mental thing. I think, doesn't it? If you're coming back from that, if it's
it does, and depending on who you ask, I mean, some guys will tell you that they don't really care about the kicking. The kicking foot. They care about the plant foot, because you need to be able to trust it with all that torque that goes into it. So again, we'll see how he how he does, and what they declare going forward. Hopefully, it's just a little blip. They put it on the injury report. He misses maybe a game, and that's it.
But it figures he goes 3 for 3 with field goals of 47, 47, and 50, and just drills them. And then all of a sudden, boom! This comes out. So it's a little bit of a surprise. So but we'll see what happens. You're saying that the plant foot is more important in football as far as injuries go.
Yeah, I've had some kickers before, and they dealt with some of these over the course of time, and the plant foot seems to be more the concern because of, again, you look at some of the pictures of these guys as they go to plant. They're almost 45 degrees. Their whole body.
Yeah. Because
they plant so hard and rotate through. So that to me is a little more important than the kicking foot even. Yeah,
interesting. Well, Devontae Smith has been out doing drills. He hasn't been taking. They haven't targeted him, but he's out there doing drills with defenders on him, so he can get the feel of somebody breathing down his neck. Mm-hmm. And there's hints that he may play tomorrow night. As an orthopedic surgeon, how does that? What are your thoughts when you hear that?
Well, certainly encouraging. And last week when we talked about these knee sprains and what they mean, it's something where it can take a week or two to get better if it's a mild sprain, or something that can linger on through the entire preseason and into the start of the season. Every indication the Eagles gave us was that it was going to be more on the mild side. So I think it'd be good to get him out there a couple plays. They may not have him do a bunch of things where he's cutting per se. He might be either used as a decoy, he might be used for more downfield sort of activities. But it'll be interesting to see how he does and how he cuts and really how he does afterwards.
Yeah.
As far as other injury news with the team goes, Tyree Jackson, a player who's really been a training camp darling, somebody who's kind of stepped on up and really shown the ability to make the transition from quarterback to tight end very quickly, something that another, person who was making the transition did not look too hot doing down in Jacksonville. He landed on his back really awkwardly, it sounds like, and he ended up with a fractured back, and he's out 8 to 10 weeks right now. What kind of fracture would you assume? Obviously, not a whole lot of diagnosis. Could there be for that kind of timetable? And is it something that happens a lot where you see guys take falls playing like that end up with fractured backs, or is that something that usually happens from hits? It just kind of seemed kind of weird of a guy kind of landing awkwardly and there being that much of a break.
Yeah, so typically, when we see those types of fractures, they're more vertebrae fractures, which are the building blocks of the spine. Think back, Carson had a fracture very similar, although I believe his was what we call a pars fracture, but a fracture of nevertheless of the building block a couple of years ago. And it's something where, it might be sooner than the 8 to 10 weeks. We tell most athletes that fractures heal over the course of between 6 and 10 weeks, depending on where it is and how the body sort of adjusts. But again, it's one thing to have a fracture heal and feel fine and get around. It's another thing to have a fracture heal and take another hit. So I think that's where they're sort of looking at the long term of this. But certainly for the next 6 weeks or so, he's going to be on the shelf, just sort of rehabbing and letting it heal.
And then for Tyree Jackson, for a player who's playing tight end, somebody who is a part of the passing game, but also part of the offensive line. What could a back injury like this kind of put as far as his level of play throughout the season as he kind of comes back, and what things are tough for a player like that to kind of get back to trust on playing both of those different phases with a back injury like this?
Yeah, the pass catching is actually a little bit easier, aside from obviously taking a shot in the back and trusting that. But, the blocking is, in particular, difficult because you're down in a stance, and then you're firing up, so you're sort of coming from below to high, and that's a lot of force that sort of compresses down on the spine as you're, engaging someone else. And, again, you're not exactly engaging, an 80-pound, fourth grader. You're sort of engaging these 300-pound, beasts that are coming at you pretty hard. So those are the things that are going to be difficult for him and cause pain and aggravation as well.
I had a question that's related in two ways. Back surgery. An offensive tackle for the Bears, drafted in the second round, Tevin Jenkins, is getting back surgery. And why it may have a little bit of a connection to Philly is that Jason Peters is the guy they signed to take his place, one of the most oft-injured players in the Eagles roster the last couple of years. But when you see a young guy like that getting back surgery, what could it be for? Because they don't really say whether it's a disc of some kind or whatever. But what are your thoughts when you hear Tevin Jenkins? He's been out for 15 practices, and now they're hoping he comes back this season. What does that tell you when you hear that?
Yeah, so one of the most common things we see, and particularly in the young guys that are going to get these surgeries, are, again, you mentioned pinched nerves and discs. Discs are sort of the jelly that sits between the building blocks. And what happens there is if you have an injury, sometimes they'll extrude or sort of push out to the side, and they'll pinch the nerve. And that pinched nerve will lead to pain. It'll lead to decreased strength, decreased function. And it's something that, most times you try to rehab, and obviously they tried with him. And if it fails, then surgically, the surgeon will go in and either try to correct that piece that's been extruded out to the side, or they'll sometimes actually stabilize it with screws and plates. But hopefully this is something where it's rather minor. They can do what's called a discectomy, where they go in, they remove the piece that's sort of protruding, and then get them back, get them back to health.
Yeah, it just seemed it's like these injuries. It's just everywhere, and then of all people they get to replace them is a guy that does nothing but get injured. But that's their problem. But I thought I'd ask you about it. But also, Justin Fields goes behind, has an incredible opening day, a preseason game, and then goes up to the microphone and says that it kind of slowed down for me, and all this stuff. And I can imagine that the opening day, the actual linebackers that are going to be chasing him around in opening day are licking their chops for this fool, right? And then he comes up with a groin issue. Could it possibly be anything from him being so psychologically, like, almost overconfident during this game? I mean, he was tremendous. Mm-hmm. He was playing like he was playing. He's going to make the team, Justin. You're making the team. Is that somebody? We've talked about this. How when new people come in, are they overdoing it? Is there a chance that he was maybe just so psyched out of his mind that he ended up doing that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always that chance, and the truth is, we'll never know. It could have been something simple, Sometimes you don't do the right stretching, right? You're so confident that you don't stretch the right way before practice or cool down afterwards. Whatever it might be, it doesn't sound like it's going to be something that lingers too long, and I don't think it's going to impact him too much whether he starts week 1, week 3 or 4. He's there for the future. But, yeah, it is sort of eye-opening. I certainly caught his press conference afterwards when he mentioned that it actually wasn't that fast, and you kind of giggle when you hear that because you can say that all you want, but it's faster than you think, and it's also week 1 of the preseason. I'll never forget almost 10 years ago when Steve Spurrier went out in his first preseason game with the Redskins and torched someone for 47 points or 42 points, and he went full speed and said this is what he does. The NFL quickly caught up to him the following week. So, take it with a grain of salt. It's good to see him playing well. I think he's going to be a good quarterback, but it's going to start to move a lot faster for him.
Yeah, and then all the quarterbacks last week, the new ones, even the second-year ones, people were saying, even looking at Jalen Hurts, all seem to be this new crop of quarterbacks are doing really well, and it's a good thing for the league, right?
Yeah.
So
Hey, it's always a good thing. I mean, look, you kind of look at it. There's never 30 great quarterbacks all at once, right? It goes in waves. So it's good to have some new blood roll in, and as great as Aaron Rodgers is and Tom Brady, the next couple of years at some point they are going to eventually pass the torch over, and you need to have those guys ready to step in.
Yeah. So how are your Giants so far? What are you looking for this week in the preseason?
I want them to stay healthy. That's really what I want them to do, is stay healthy.
Don't rush Saquon, right?
I want to see Willie Hernandez sort of, obviously, continue to build. If you haven't seen, he lost about 20 pounds. He's trying to rebuild himself. He had that really up and down year last year, and then caught COVID to sort of cap it off, and then lost his starting job. But you want to see them stay healthy. You want to see the line work coherently together, and really they're just trying to get to the start of the season, and then let the guys be the guys. Let them gel a little bit. Let Barkley get out there, and hopefully they can keep Daniel Jones upright long enough to let him hit some of these big offensive targets that they have.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Daniel Jones getting the night off there in the Week 1 matchup made for a whole lot of Clayton Thorson. So hopefully seeing Daniel Jones out there, not Clayton Thorson, would be probably preferable for most Giants fans.
What did they? How many points did they? One touchdown,
it was like 12-7.
Right?
It was like a real low-scoring game.
Yeah.
I thought, obviously Zach Wilson, making his first start for the Jets, looked pretty good out there. But otherwise, it was just a very, a meh kind of style preseason game. So, but it seemed like at least all the talk from Daniel Jones' first joint practice there against Cleveland out there, at Browns camp seemed like it went pretty well. So hopefully he can kind of keep building on that and earning some of that trust, because as you know, the way the Giants go here, and really Dave Gettleman's job and maybe even Joe Judge's job are really tied to how Daniel Jones does this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot between the extensions coming up, and it's just one of those things where he's got to plant his flag this year, and just like Josh Allen did last year, and really hope that he takes a step forward. And if not, if the Giants go 6-11 this year or something like that, then they're going to be looking for a quarterback next year. And Gettleman at least made that trade to get a second first round pick to be able to move up and down if he had to. So
we'll see what happens. But thanks for calling in, Doc. Dr. Sean McMillan is the Chief of Orthopedics and Director of Orthopedic Sports Medicine at Lord's. I said it again. I did it again. It's terrible. At Virtua Health Systems in Burlington County and Cherry Hill. Also, Dr. McMillan is the Assistant Professor of Orthopedic Surgery at Rowan University. Doc, can you tell people, as always, we ask you, how can people find you, get in touch with you?
Yeah, so we're seeing people both in person and through telehealth if needed. Our Cherry Hill and Burlington offices are open, and the best way to be seen would be our main number, 856-470-9029.
All right. Dr. McMillan, thanks so much for being a guest on Football Stories Facebook Live.
Thanks, guys.
You got it.
Take care, Doc.
And a lot of crazy things going on, and it just seems like wherever the injuries are, it seems like Jason Peters finds it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it's not a bad move for them, because if he's somewhat healthy, they're going to get a guy to hold the fort down until they get their kid back, right? But that remains to be seen.
Yeah,
big time.
Big time.
And he'll be limping off, waving for the backup. That's unfortunately, he had a Hall of Fame career, but my image of him is always hopping off the field, waving for Hal Vaitai or Dillard or somebody to come in to take his place, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a big one there to see if he can.
And you wonder if that affected Dillard, and his demeanor, everything about him. He almost looked defeated from day one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Dillard. I think the big problem with that, I mean, is really just it goes back to Howie, them not doing enough homework on Andre Dillard, them thinking themselves they had this steal, being the smartest guy in the room kind of thing.
Yeah.
Really sticking it to Houston, trading up in front of them and grabbing the guy who, Houston was obviously eyeing, knowing that they needed offensive line help. And, it was just one of those weird ones where it was just you just didn't do the homework on the guy. You didn't really know him. You thought off of talent alone it was okay to pull the trigger, and then you realize mentally he just probably is not cut out for it. And this is exactly what I was talking about last week too, where it's a shame because of the injury, because, I would say that Andre Dillard's time is gone in Philadelphia, right, to really make a name for himself. Yeah. But not being able to at least play in this preseason, to use that as a showcase to get a 6th round pick, a 7th round pick, something back for him to have a new lease on life somewhere else. It's sad for Dillard because maybe that could have happened. Maybe there's something that could happen. It just feels like it's not going to happen in Philadelphia, and it's weird to say, like, you have Jeff Stoutland here, one of the best offensive line coaches in the league.
And
he can't get you to where you need to be, it's really tough to see other guys having that same success doing it. And age-wise, I mean, he's going to be 26, then 27. I mean, he's not a young prospect.
No.
And so it's really tough to say, like, his ceiling is untouched, right? Because I don't know what the floor looks like right now, right?
Yeah.
It's really rough. So
that's what I said about Carson Wentz. They kept calling him the kid. The kid. He was almost 23 when he came here as a rookie.
Yeah.
And he was an older, pick. Same thing with Jason Kelsey. And people didn't realize how, he's a bit older, but for his age, you thought he'd have a few more years because he was an older, prospect. And you talk about talent and people when they picked him. How about Marcus Mariota?
Yeah.
People thought he was the second coming. Remember?
Yeah. I mean,
the Eagles were coveting him. They were, oh my God, we got to get this guy. Yeah, I was swooning over this guy.
Yeah.
And he goes to Tennessee, and he flashes some things here and there, but he was Mr. 9-7. How many years in a row did the Titans finish 9-7? And once in a while, they would pop into a playoff spot.
Yeah.
And he threw a pass to himself, and they fluked into a playoff win.
Yep.
But he was never a great quarterback, ever.
No, I mean,
great athlete, but never a great quarterback.
Exactly, and that's the thing where it's tough to see these guys. When you're looking at them, right? And the reverse of that is a guy like Justin Herbert, who thought he had tons of flaws coming out of Oregon, right? It was like Mariota ran that Chip Kelly offense to a T. If there was anybody who was going to run that offense,
National championship
it felt
game,
like Mariota was the guy to do it, right? To run that type of speed. And it's like then you got Herbert who, he showed flashes of arm strength. He showed ability there, but he also showed the ability to just make dumb plays and dumb reads and really just not have it all together and turf balls. Then he goes to L.A., and the kid looks like, the next closest thing to, what Deshaun Watson was supposed to be for the league, or, obviously plays the same division as Patrick Mahomes, as a gunslinger type guy, a guy who can really stretch it with his arm. And of the quarterbacks coming out, Tua and the rest of the guys who got drafted that year, it looks like Herbert might be the best of the bunch, right? So it's funny how that kind of works out. Sam Darnold, another guy coming out of USC who looked like he had it all, right? Typical build, coming out of a college quarterback factory like USC, and he's already at his next stop in Carolina, and it's not looking too pretty down there with Matt Rule and them, thus far either. So it is really rough to see it and to kind of gauge it, and you don't know until you know. And even when you think you know, like the Rams did with Jared Goff and like Philly did with Carson Wentz, it flips on a dime sometimes with the quarterback game.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to be able to, again, try to know before you invest. Josh Allen getting that big contract, right? We saw it last year. Josh Allen took a big leap. How much of that will regress? How much of that is there still for Josh Allen to build to continue to show more of that quarterback and less of the, 50-ish completion percentage quarterback he was coming out of Wyoming? We don't really know. Brent Bean's got to make the call on it because, it's better to get out in front of it and extend him now and try to hopefully get a little bit of a discount in case he goes out there and wins the AFC this year, which that roster could potentially do. But at the same time, you don't know. And so it's a rough thing, and that's where with the Jalen Hurts thing, it made so much more sense for the Eagles to roll the dice with Jalen Hurts this year. And
nobody's expecting anything.
Exactly, because
so.
if he is the guy and he does it with this kind of pressure, it's gonna be perfect for him.
All right. Well, Tom, let you talk with him now. Come on,
sure.
Man. I got to check something real quick.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
So what did you see out of the team there on Thursday? And what have you heard from training camp or anything like that you want to see kind of come out this Thursday?
I'm really excited about Mailata. I'm really hearing some good things about him. The O-line appears to be ready to go week one so far and healthy. Brooks, I think he's still limited in practice, but he's still, he's doing stuff from what I've read. But I'm really excited to see the offensive line. I'm really excited to see the new defensive system.
Yeah.
The new scheme. With Gannon and everything like that, we don't know I mean, we don't know what it's going to look like, and that's exciting. I'm a defensive head.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and obviously it's preseason, so they're mostly running vanilla stuff and not going to show their hand, too much now, out there in preseason. But to at least kind of get a little bit of it, right? A little taste of what to expect. I could definitely see that. And again, with Gann, I mean, the one cool thing that we've seen is this camp. You've seen almost like a revitalized Darius Slay on one side. Steven Nelson has been pretty solid on the other, along with McPherson, kind of showing, hey, maybe I'm a little bit more ready for snaps sooner rather than later on that corner spot. And so a position group that it's really been an Achilles heel of the team for the last couple of years could revert into a strength, which is, again, pretty exciting to see. I mean, Avante Maddox last year being your number 2 corner is now probably your number 4 corner. And that's, again, a better spot to be in, at least talent-wise. He's probably your starter still being in the nickel. But as far as, again, hanging that hat on talent-wise, that's a big, reshuffling there of the pieces.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen Stevens, like I said, him and Darius Slay look like they've been playing together for years.
Yeah.
And it's great the way they've acclimated themselves. And he's a character, but he's a real leader out there. Slay, and I think people are going to get to know him finally this year because he's a little bit more open with talking to the players and whatever. But you talked about Jordan Mailata. You like him as the left tackle.
I'm liking what I'm hearing out of camp compared to last year.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's taken a big step forward.
Yeah, he's a lot more confident, and him and Nate Herbig have been getting big time reps because they're kind of resting. Jason Kelsey, and they're kind of platooning. Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks, they don't do whole series and whatever at practice because they're these guys are in their 30s and they're all pros and they can still play at the highest level, but they're making Jordan Mailata and Nate Herbig, who is I think officially now that Jerica got let go. He's officially the backup center now.
He is if he wasn't already, he is right now. And obviously the other big piece in there with Landon Dickerson is the huge question mark.
He does nothing at all
because he's not doing anything right now, and he's still kind of nursing.
He's doing less
ACL,
now than he did in the spring.
Yeah,
and
maybe that was the game plan. Of just kind of like, all right, let's see what we got. Let's pull it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's make sure because the investment in that pick obviously is huge. We've already seen it with the Sidney Jones pick a few years back. Of maybe a guy kind of coming back a little too soon off of a major injury, being thrown out to the fire, and maybe kind of, again, reeling that back in. So maybe that's the idea. But, no, I mean, Mailata is the starter here, and the only other guy back behind him is Brett Toth. So you're not really looking at the left tackle spot having as much, depth as it has been in years past, and relying on a guy like Jack Driscoll to maybe be a swing tackle. This upcoming year is probably going to be there for them. If Andre Dillard's even on this roster, that's a huge question mark. The one kid who I was pretty excited to maybe hear you talk about, I don't know if you've seen anything from him, but Coyote Owiska or Osuka, wherever his name is there, he's an undrafted guy out of Buffalo. That's been out there, and he's been doing some cross-training at the guard spots and at the tackle spots. So they might be looking at him as maybe, a depth piece on the practice squad, but maybe a cheaper version of a Jack Driscoll, of a Matt Pryor, somebody like that who they've had on the team for a couple of years.
Coyote Owiska,
yeah.
And number 72.
Yeah.
He's been out there. I mean, but that whole group, Harry Kreider's still there, Ross. Pierce-Bacher from Alabama. I mean, they're all guys that he likes.
Yeah, we haven't seen Raven Clark out there yet either,
No.
And that's another guy who
we don't even see. I mean, we were seeing Casey Tucker and Landon Dickerson at least doing these little things where they those pads that always seem to have. It has to be like somebody's nephew that played high school football, and they pick that number because they all say number 70 on them. But they would do this little thing where they would go.
Right.
And then you go down and it's like, wow, that's really not very strenuous there.
Yeah.
And but they would have them do that, like the two of them. But that was about it, I guess, because of the injuries. But it's hard to tell. How do we know? I mean, there are all these drills all day. You can see the little, one-on-one matchups where everybody hollers when the one guy grabs the towel on the ground. He got by.
Well, that's what it
defender.
seems like too. Like, I mean, even talking, hearing some other guys talk about the joint practice stuff. It's like, you got things happen on 3 different fields. Like you either kind of hone in on one field,
Like
or you see nothing because you're trying to watch all three.
Yeah, and it's like trying to cover golf, like high school golf.
Yeah.
There's no 14 TV cameras or 7 cameras on each hole.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You got to kind of stay one place and watch them all go by. So it's same kind of thing. It's like you kind of wander around looking for different stuff to watch for a while. So it's really hard to tell. It's but the O-lines. After that first half, the second half, the O-line was nothing to write home about at all. And now, again, you had a quarterback that was just as bad.
Right.
I mean, he had 0 quarterback rating.
Yeah, one for 5 with 4 of the incompletions, 2 of them being interceptions, and 1 of them being a sack. I mean,
if you're making this team, it's going to be at practice, I would think. I mean, and I guess they can watch film afterwards to see who actually made their blocks and who didn't. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard. You hear when a tackle gets called for jumping off sides, and how and it may have been the center who screwed it up.
Right.
That caused the penalty.
Yeah.
He was the one who happened to jump because he thought he got the wrong signal from the center. So we don't know. Mm-hmm. It's something you have to ask the coaches about. So if he outlasts, these other guys that they cut were injured a lot. But Jerica, I thought he always talked about him, Stoutland, at press conferences and stuff, and I'm surprised.
I mean,
these guys could also come back.
They could. Obviously, they could be practice squad guys later or whatever it might be. But I think that just kind of speaks to the depth, right? And it speaks to, again, 2 guys who I think are going to have a roster spot on this team. And obviously, Landon Dickerson is definitely going to have a roster spot. But LaRaven Clark, I think, will have a roster spot, but we haven't seen, right? So these are 2 guys who aren't playing at all that are going to pretty much be part of whatever it be 8 to 10 offensive linemen that they end up keeping here. Those guys are part of the name, so whittling down some of those other guys does make some sense here as we get closer. The other thing that I was pleasantly surprised to see, and I was talking about with the Slay and Nelson and McPherson thing of them taking a weakness and turning into a strength. It seems like the linebacker core has kind of turned into a little bit of that too. It seems like Eric Wilson stepped in and made some quite a few plays there during these joint practices. Singleton, T.J. Edwards, those guys, the starters being there.
He had a funny Alex Singleton during practice the other day against Cam Newton. Mm-hmm. Cam Newton fires his ball across the middle of the field, and he cuts in front of it perfectly, but it was a little bit to his left, but he should have caught it.
Right.
It was an easy interception. And it just bashes off his hands.
And a Patriots player catches it or something.
No. It was he made it. I mean, he made the play.
Gotcha.
But he should have intercepted it.
Right.
So he goes down to the ground and he's like, like he's freaking out because he should have caught it. It's on film. There's all these fans here. It's Cam Newton. The whole thing, right? He's very upset with himself. So he runs off the field. And I'm finding out now they kind of do this amongst themselves, the linebackers, which might be with some of the new guys they brought in, but the. He goes over and he does 10 push-ups.
Okay.
On the sideline to punish himself for missing that. But Eric Wilson is a big kid and has a lot of confidence. Mm-hmm. He came to the press conference after the game and just exudes confidence. So I think that when you have a big kind of smiley, he reminded me a lot of Darius Slay. Mm-hmm. This big character, comes in and. He can energize maybe a less than talented room, so to speak, and he's
he
can
can
lift them to a higher level.
Yeah, he's coming in with knowledge of the Gannon, Mike Zimmer system that it seems like they're going to be running there, kind of reminiscent of what Nigel Bradham meant to Jim Schwartz and them kind of bringing that system into Philadelphia. And, we know with Nigel, I mean, he's a guy who, came in as being maybe, again, just one of those guys being brought in to maybe, kind of transfer things over, but ended up making a name for himself as one of the best linebackers in the room, getting a second contract, all that kind of stuff. Can Wilson have that same, kind of staying power within the offense, within the defense? That'd be nice to see. And the one thing that, again, just kind of stinks, guys not being able out there, Davion Taylor, just missing so much time here. A guy who needed to make up a lot of. And
when you're on a team that has a new coaching staff, they're not embedded. They're not indebted to you.
Right.
You're not their draft pick.
Yeah.
They're not going to get the bad marks for the drafting it. Howie will.
Right.
But the coaches, he's just not playing. Howie, what do you want me to do?
What do you want? I mean, and especially Patrick Johnson, guy who's a rookie, made some plays there in that Steelers game and has looked pretty good out there in camp. So another guy who's kind of beaten down the door there of making it maybe a little easier to not have Davion Taylor.
I saw Sean Bradley flying around out there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if he's making plays or not, but I mean, he's out there, right? And
he's
still
out there flying around against the Patriots. So he needs to step up. He was a draft pick in a team that is not that. There is all kinds of opportunity here for you.
Yeah.
It's not like you have 3 Hall of Famers sitting there and you have to beat out.
Right.
This stuff is open. These are special teamers that just kind of moved up and found homes here. And Alex Singleton and T.J. Edwards, they're special teamers who kind of found their way into this lineup just by attrition.
Yeah.
And so, Sean Bradley, you're a draft pick at this position. Come on.
He needs to step up. I mean, and the other part of it, too, is just building that confidence, right, and showing that you have it. The one thing that, I heard also coming out of the joint practices there was Kevon Wallace was very vocal to Cam Newton. Wallace. Calling him the check down king and kind of getting on him about a bunch of stuff there. And so that's the type of he's a second-year player, a guy who, because of the injury to Rodney McLeod and not having him here, has a pathway to some serious playing time right now. Not only making the most of it with plays on the field, but that swagger, that
you're a D-back. That's what Jalen Mills kind of built his legacy here.
100%.
He didn't have the ability. He didn't have the speed. Mm-hmm. He had a swag about him. He was fearless, and he made some big monster plays to help them win that Super Bowl. But we have to take a break. This is Football Stories Facebook Live. We'll be back with more after these messages. Our sponsor, Nancy Kowalik, broker-owner at Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group, says her market in South Jersey experiencing a seller's market. Homes are selling for 100% of asking price or more, and they're selling fast. Homes are receiving multiple offers, which turn into bidding wars as soon as they premiere on the first open house. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is the #1 real estate brokerage in South Jersey. Their homes sell 46% faster, and sale prices are nearly 3% higher than competing brokerage listings, according to the 2019 Bright MLS statistics. If you're looking to sell your home fast and for top dollar, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562. You can visit online at southjerseyteam.com. And if you're thinking about buying a home, Nancy's team of highly trained professionals are standing by to help you find that perfect home, and they're experts in the field. Whether it's a buyer's or seller's market, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start packing.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Need new carpet or flooring? We know. You don't want to pay too much. You want fast, reliable service, a great installation, and be able to choose from a huge selection. Well then, never pay store prices again. Shop at home and save with Smart Carpet and Flooring. Whether you need new hardwood flooring, vinyl flooring, carpet, or tile, Smart Carpet mobile showrooms have all the brands you want and all at great prices. Your time is valuable, and we make it easy for you to get the new floor you want. We even move your furniture. So if you're ready for a new floor from Armstrong, Shaw, Mohawk, Congolium, Bruce, and more, call Smart Carpet and Flooring today at 1-800-526-7847. That's 1-800-526-7847. Smart Carpet and Flooring. Never pay store prices again.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Colonial Marble and Granite. We've revolutionized the way you buy your granite countertops. Unbeatable prices. Visit us online at colonialmarble.net.
Everyone is different. Some get injured while others wear down. At Premier Orthopedics Associates of Southern New Jersey, they customize a treatment plan to meet your needs, offering the latest techniques and
Welcome back here to Football Stories Radio Show, live on Facebook and YouTube. I am Matt Santoleri. To the left of me, we got Al Thompson, our editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, host here of the radio program. We got Big Tom Kelly filling in for Big Al Zafiri, producing our show and chiming in every once in a while in the co-host role as well. And before we get back into that last half hour of our program, just to remind you that summer is here, and it's hot outside. Are you dreaming of a home with a pool? Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group has many homes with pools for sale in the area. Spend your summer at your very own staycation home, where you and your family will feel like you're on vacation every day right at home. Have a home to sell? Nancy can give you an immediate cash offer for your home. No showings, repairs, or hassles, just cash. Plus, with Nancy Kowalik's buyback guarantee, if you don't love your home, she'll buy it back from you within 18 months. In addition, for every transaction that Kowalik's team closes, a portion of the funds always goes back to the community. So by hiring Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group, not only will you be buying or selling your home with a 5-star rated team that's #1 in South Jersey and guarantees your satisfaction, but you'll also be giving back to your community. Whether you're upsizing, downsizing, or just looking to secure your very first home, Nancy Kowalik has a team of experts that can help you live out your dream. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group, 856-478-6562 today and start packing. Nancy and her seller must agree on price and timing. And welcome back here to Football Stories. Where are we going from here, Al?
Well, we have some Sixers talk and Phillies talk. The Phillies play tonight at 9:40 out in Arizona. I mean, Atlanta's playing the last place team in the National League East, but they still have 51 wins, and they're terrible, but they're not as bad as Arizona, who came into the game with a 38-81 record last night.
Yeah,
and all the Phillies could do was get a fisted, insane, I don't know how he did it, home run from Bryce Harper. Did you see that home run?
Mm-hmm.
How did he hit that out?
I had no idea.
It was all the way. It almost hit him in the wrists. It literally almost hit him in his wrists. It was so far down the bat.
Yeah.
And he hits it 424 feet. It almost hit the pool.
Mm-hmm.
He missed the pool to the left by about 8 feet. But and then the other run you get is by a wild pitch with 2 outs
mm-hmm.
on your last at bat, and it was embarrassing. I thought, and. Letting them, giving your opponent, even if it's Arizona, score 3 runs isn't horrible.
Right.
You have enough offense on that team. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not a baseball guy.
Yeah.
That you should be able to score more than one stinking solo home run by Bryce Harper. Because I'm not even going to count the wild pitch.
Right.
Because they handed you that. How can you not score 7-8 runs against these guys and win 9-3?
You would think it. I mean, it was that thing we were kind of going into that hot streak they're running on there, where they take care of business. They beat up on teams that they needed to beat up in front of them. Right? They beat up on the Mets. They beat up on the Nationals, obviously, which was easier there on that end. But then you go into that series against the Dodgers, you drop 2 out of 3. You go into that series against the Reds, you drop 2 out of 3. The wheels are just starting to kind of come loose a little bit. And, it's not obviously too far gone. It's a 2.5 game lead that the Braves have right now. But you've got to win these games that are in front of you. 8
games over 500 and you're 3 games over 500. That's what I'm looking at. All that stuff is great to say, well, they're only 2.5. It doesn't sound so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just saying it in a manner that it doesn't sound so bad. They're 8 games over 500, and they get to play a bad team again tonight, and so are you.
Right.
So,
got to beat the bad team.
You had to win that game last night. Atlanta won their game, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Again, you can't. I'm not going to blame it on pitching. He's been pulling all the right strings. But how do you go in that game and perform that pathetically offensively?
Yeah. I mean, it's rough. I mean, it's as a Red Sox fan, I'm kind of watching Boston kind of blow up, in their face as well right now. They dropped both the games there to the Yankees in the doubleheader when they played them, and
they're 69-53.
And again, they're up. They're there, but I mean, this is a team that just a couple weeks ago was #1 in the AL East. Now they're tied for second in the AL East, and really in a dogfight with Oakland for that last wild card spot. So again, kind of similar situation where you're controlling your destiny. Everything's in front of you. The teams you got to beat, you're kind of doing it. But then when Tampa Bay came into town and they played against the Yankees, these other teams in their division, they got to win these games. They're dropping them there too. So for the Phillies, it's a little bit of just kind of getting back to why they won those games. Going away, against the Nationals and against the Mets, which was got the bats going, right?
You got to have a lumber party every night.
Got to have it. Got to have it.
That's your, isn't it right, Tom? Yeah, absolutely. We need to have your microphone there.
Would be helpful. No, absolutely.
You could do a Garrett Morris, like, and the big news tonight. Remember that? No, you're too young to remember that. But anyway, go ahead.
It seems like the bats are definitely stalling. I believe Harper, as far as his home runs go, out of his 22, 20 of them are with no one on base. They're all solo home runs. So
and two limpy, weak-ass at-bats before him. He comes up and hits the most improbable home run you'll ever see just from form. It's like it was like the worst swing he's taken this year, and he hits it 424 feet. But that's what great players do. He made something out of nothing because he knew they had to have a run. And it was 0-0 at the time, right? He made it 1-0. So, he's doing his part. I have no problems with Bryce Harper or any aspect of his game. He's making some great defensive plays last night. And I don't know. I don't know what they got to do.
Getting the bats going. I mean, that's the big way to solve it, especially against, again, a team like the Diamondbacks that you should be able to get those bats going against. You got to be able to do it out there. So, yeah, I mean, we just got to see it, right? I mean, this Phillies team, I think there's a lot of people in the Del Valle area who were kind of priming themselves up for some disappointment as they were kind of working their way back up the standings. And then maybe for a portion they're kind of bought in and said, oh, well, maybe they're going to do it. Maybe they're going to hold on. And then it's kind of trickling back, right? And so
Rhys Hoskins hasn't been playing though, right?
No,
he's been hurt.
But again, it's consistency. That's the name of the game when it comes to the Phillies, and what we haven't seen over the last couple of years is that consistent play. We've seen spurts of them playing bad baseball, seen spurts of them playing good baseball. They just got to find that that middle ground there and keep that rolling because Atlanta is dealing with injury after injury. I mean, they're missing so many of their key players, and they're still finding ways to win games. The excuses are not there for Joe Girardi and these Phillies. Like, these are games you have to win. Your team is relatively healthy, minus, Rhys and some of the other stuff that's been going on there. These are games you have to win, and you just got to find ways to do it.
And you're playing a guy tonight, Ranger Suarez, a guy that they've kind of converted into a starter, has an excellent ERA. I mean, an outrageous ERA. He's going against a guy named Humberto Castellanos, who is 0-1 with actually a pretty good ERA, 2.30. But they got to go in here and just crush these guys like 15-2, and win the I guess they have another game against these guys before they move on. But they got to win. They just got to start winning again. So I was very disappointed to watch that, and just the futility at home plate was just inexcusable for the pieces that they have on offense. Just no excuse for it.
Right.
So but whatever. And of course the Sixers. I mean, Ben Simmons is literally going to set a world record for the rumors that have been documented publicly of where he's going to go and what he's going to do. The latest is that the Sixers, according to all these mysterious sources, who haven't been right about anything yet so far, he's still a Sixer. And my bet right now, he's going to be a Sixer at training camp. He's going to be there. And
I don't know. There's a lot of Sixers fans who aren't looking forward to that.
I don't know. I mean, it's the people who call radio stations and the people who buy the season tickets are completely two different crowds.
Oh, 100% they are. And, I'm saying more of just again, I know what vocal minority looks like. I also know
they're the ones who don't spend a penny on the team and call the station.
Exactly. But the thing that I noticed the most down the stretch last year was when the most hardened supporters, Kyle Neubeck, who was a very big supporter of Simmons and kind of covered over his fault. Derek Bodner, another writer who, for the most part, anytime people kind of...
See Yahoo?
Bodner, I think, is The Athletic.
Okay.
Anybody who kind of got on, Simmons about the offense not being there, kind of always brought up how much he brings on the defensive side of the ball and how young he is and how he can still develop and all this other stuff. And those guys left that camp, right? And it's like when... The guys like that who you would consider to be all right, that's a Simmons guy, is no longer a Simmons guy. That's the stuff that I really see and I pay attention to more than just, Sixers fan 227 on Twitter who just throws whatever hot, take that he wants to throw out there, at the wall and see if it sticks. It's the informed people are looking at this in a different way. it's rough right
But
now
if
to
you're
look
if
at the
I'm-
Sixers. I mean, look at the Sixers
if I'm
championship odds. I mean, there's 7, 8 teams that are ahead of them right now. The Hawks are in the same conversation compared to the Sixers are right now when it comes to championship odds. That's how down people are on Simmons being able to rebound and get back to that.
It's not. I don't know. Call it about a rebound. He's never had the right mindset on offense and utilized his God-given gifts. He is a gifted athlete, and we're always going to his albatross is going to be that dunk he gave up in Game 7 against Atlanta, and he a high school kid who's 6'10" would have made that 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah,
and that's not his ability. And if you go down early, it's not his form. If you go down there early, like I always do, I always like going down and watching all the shooting. I used to, if Indiana was in town, I was there like really crazy early because I wanted to see Reggie Miller do his thing, and it was something to behold. Larry Bird, same thing, was that they could just shoot all day and just never miss. At practice, they would bring a rack. He would bring a rack, Reggie Miller, and have it at half court. He would have the rack right there and a ball boy. They all knew what to do. And he would just grab ball after ball after ball, and he would swish at least half of them from midcourt like it was nothing. And Larry Bird, insane. It was like a Zen thing. He would just shoot three-pointer after three-pointer. He would not – I still remember I was in Boston Garden back in the day when we used to get tickets from the trainer, Al Domenico, and a whole bunch of us would go up before I got in the media. And there's like – the party grew to be about 30, 35 people would go up, and we like own – the players section. It was supposed to be for the relatives. Well, in those days, the players didn't make much money on the bench, so they sold their tickets to us. So it was this crazy mob, and I had a press pass from Al Domenico because I had to pay him, and even some of the assistant coaches were selling their tickets, and but you could go. I had this pass, so screw everybody. I'm out of the hotel. We were all packed into like 3 rooms. That's how they got these new rules, I guess, because how many people were in these rooms, and that we would get from Philly to go up there, and I would go over really early because I wanted to watch Bird, and I still remember this time. I was 2.5 hours early, and I'm sitting there by myself, and I stayed out of his way, like eyesight. I purposely did that because I'm a former jock. I mean, I respect the, his brilliance, and he is draining shot after shot after shot after shot after shot. He has not missed one. It's right out of Hoosiers, right? He is just not missing one. And he's got a kid just bouncing the ball back to him. Must be the same kid every week. And what a treat, right, to be able to do that. And he's not missing one. Not one. He must have hit 50 in a row. And you go, and then you could see like some marketing guy for the Celtics is walking around with these 4 dopey-looking, touristy kind of, I guess they were sponsors. But one guy, this is before cell phones, you had to use a real camera. Some idiot walks up, and you're watching Genius here, right? And there's nobody on him, but just see somebody had the concentration to hit that many in a row. Takes a picture, and it flashed, and he missed one. And he doesn't change his expression. The ball boy doesn't lose his cue. He just hits the next one back to him, and he drains another 30 or 40 until he just got tired and left. It was an amazing thing I ever saw.
That's the Larry Bird stories. I mean, you remember the one story.
I saw this, though. You know what I mean? Like,
he scored 47 points against the Trailblazers, shooting mostly with his opposite hand just because he could. Yeah. Like, those are the things like you see from players like that who know they're great, they have that greatness, and they can tap into it. That's a next level thing. Not all athletes get there. We know
he doesn't have the athleticism of Ben Simmons.
No, of course not. No.
Ben Simmons is a much better athlete than Larry Bird. And you have tremendous ability. But if you go to practice, I got off on this tangent, but if you go to practice really, or go to the games really early, you just see him draining 3 after 3 after 3. Not at that level or Reggie Miller level, and no one's asking him to. But he'll hit 10 out of 12.
Right.
And a rift. He'll go there and drain 13 out of 15 free throws and just leave the court. And then you go, wait a minute, what happens when the game starts? You know what I mean? Like you can't hit the broadside of a barn And I mean, some of the really awful shots.
Just like I guess
from the free throw line, because he never tries three-pointers.
I think it was the weekend. Somebody posted another clip of Ben Simmons working out, and it was like how many people can do this, and it was like him like splitting over top of a defender coming over a pick, and it was like, all right, okay. No player on defense is ever going above a pick to guard Ben Simmons. All right, like it's like how many point guards is? How many defenders would ever do that to Ben Simmons?
Are you
right?
paying this guy $20,000 for your practice?
Yeah,
you're not getting paid. I'm not eating some court.
Yeah, like
so that for some video you're making. Forget it.
Heck
to
no.
Scam to scam the fans back home, and we're done with the videos.
Right.
Like I said, we all know you can do it. Just do it.
Sheesh.
So. Is somebody going to be able to? Is he willing? What do they talk about? Addiction problems and things like that. The first
admitting you have a problem.
Admitting you have a problem.
That's it. It's the first step.
And going home and floating videos of yourself at your $18 million mansion, lounging around the pool, is not sending a message to your fans that you give a crap.
No, again, the big thing with him, and again, this is just the stuff that we're talking about here is like, the willingness to just go out and make a weakness a strength, right? Like to just hammer it away because it does. It's like you can shoot all around in warm ups or post these off season videos, but when the lights come on, we know what you're going to do. We know how your play style is. Some of that it doesn't matter how much teams know. You're going to score a little. You're going to do a little because you're that athletically gifted. You're that great at the things you're great at. But when it comes to what matters most, which is bringing Philadelphia a championship during this window of Joel Embiid and the star power they have within that, that's not going to cut it, right? And so that's where it's like with Simmons, that's the stuff I'm saying where people are just kind of out on it because they know the story. The story's been written, right? Like how many times does a guy have an off-season after off-season after off-season like Ben Simmons does and one day wake up and it clicks? It's probably not. That's the unfortunate part. I'm not burying him, but it's probably not. You can't bank on it.
Giannis is just as bad an outside shooter as in games. But
he does it, right? And
I'm getting to that. Is
short memory.
He's not afraid to get fouled and brick the free throws.
No.
He's not afraid to do that because he knows he's going to make the majority of the field goals by just being an absolute terror at the hoop. And he is that.
Yeah.
Simmons is that. We've seen it. So just don't stop being, if that's what you want to be, a thunderous guy, Julius Erving at the age of 22, that's the way you want to be, because that's what the way Irving was. Irving didn't shoot outside. Everything was these windmill dunks.
Yeah.
And
Irving was also a forward. And, that's where Simmons is going to have to understand. There is a way to make the Simmons thing work. It's just not being point guard. You know what I mean? Because, there's just a part of that where it comes now it's like, all right, if you're not going to shoot, and you're not going to add this part to your game, well, then you've got to play the position that your body
And they've tried that. Remember, he was going to play center. We sat here and said, he got listed at 5.
Right.
And what did he do the very first possession? He's playing point guard.
Right.
That's him.
Yeah.
And why don't you play center? Why don't you play forward? Be Dr. J.
Yeah.
And eventually, Julius Erving, as he got older, he coached well, and he had a natural wisdom. I have to develop an outside shot.
Yeah.
He played to his 37.
And that's the stuff.
Iverson, last year he was 32?
Yeah,
he was lazy, and he
it wasn't able to develop that old man game. You know what I mean?
Right.
That ability to do the things when the athleticism starts to wane down. What other things can you bring to the table? And again, with Simmons, that's where it's like I get it. Everybody dreaming of Dame Lillard. Everybody's dreaming of that. That's not happening. I don't think that's going to happen.
That's supposed to be. That's what the rumor is. Either the Sixers are going to get Damian Lillard or bust, or they're just going to keep Simmons and take the heat at the beginning. But he averages 20. He still averages. Well, his career, he averages over almost 29 points a game, 4.2 rebounds, and 7 points assists. But he's 30 years old.
Right. That's the problem. But that's the thing where it came with Simmons. That's why it's like people can say all you wanted. I mean, I know the injuries happened. You can't bank on it, but that's why I make if the trade was ever on the table, I trade Simmons for Harden in a blink of an eye. I make that trade because you hang one banner, it hangs forever. And if Harden and Embiid are on the same team together playing and doing pick and rolls and all that, that is a dangerous thing that teams would have to wait for. With Dame Lillard, again, I think I make the trade. the problem is that window is a little smaller, right? Because, you know, at the end of Dame's contract, when he's 34, 35 years old, you're going to be paying $50 million to that guy. You know, your window's gone. You got to make it happen within the first couple of years in order for it to really, really do it. That's where it's like, you know, I get it. You might be taking a little less on the ceiling talent, but if there's any way they could work out a trade with the Oklahoma City Thunder to then trade out there and get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or a player like that who has an extremely high defensive floor like Simmons does, but actually has more offensive pop to his game.
Doc Rivers
just
is going to be in there screaming at you. He's not the same player.
You can say he's not the same, but it seems like to me right now, again from all the stories I'm hearing, you know, Doc Rivers and Simmons aren't on the same page right now.
I don't know.
And the relationship has deteriorated to some point.
I put that 100% on Ben Simmons.
I will put it again on I think it's on both, but I think it's mostly on Simmons because again, we've had 1 year of Doc Rivers being the head coach. We've had several years of Ben Simmons being the same Ben Simmons. So I'm not going to just completely put it on Doc Rivers. But like you say it all the time, as a head coach, your job is to manage corporations, right?
Yeah.
So to a certain level, you either reach the guy or you get him out for somebody else you can reach.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think it does kind of fall back a little bit on Doc Rivers and definitely on Dale Morey for maybe thinking he's holding out for this huge deal that he's probably not going to get.
It's his final say. It's going to be
course.
the owner.
Yeah.
It's all that money.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't realize how hairy Josh Harris's arms were. And that picture with Joel Embiid signing his contract, all I see is the Wolfman in the corner over there. I'm like, what the heck is going on over there with Josh Harris? I mean,
but Harris ultimately, they can go in there, Morley and Doc Rivers can go in there and say, we got to get rid of the guy. And if Harris doesn't like it, if he doesn't think he's getting it's a good money move, he's going to keep. And that's where I thought he was going to step in, and he hasn't apparently, and said, look, have his Pat Croce moment with him, and say, look, you got to do something. You got to do something here, because your legacy, you're going to be the laughing stock of the NBA. You're as talented as anybody in the league, and you can't make a layup because of your brain, because you have some kind of block going on up there. So either you submit to some kind of sports psychology, or you submit to something. I'm going to have to get rid of you, and then you're going to become a high-priced journeyman. You're going to be Milo, right? Basically, is he? Carmelo Anthony is a terrific player, won an NCAA title,
right?
But what's he done since? As far as titles and things like that go, nothing. He just scored a bunch of baskets in the NBA. Made a ton of money, but he's ring hunting, right? He's now, I think LeBron's saying, oh, come here, I'll get you your ring, before you retire. Yeah. And isn't that what Andy Reid did with Shady McCoy? Yeah. He got him 2 rings. Yeah. Now, he got 1 ring, and then he went to.
Yeah, well, then gave him the other, because the way that game went with against the Bucks. Yeah. But yeah, so
he's basically, you're going to become Milo. You're going to become Carmelo Anthony. You're high-priced. You have one part of your game that's brilliant, but you're not winning titles for people. Yeah. Carmelo Anthony has done nothing since that 1 year at Syracuse in his basketball career. Probably go to the Hall of Fame because it's marketing.
Right. I mean, he's been a really good basketball player. He scored a lot of points.
He's a nice guy.
He was the face of USA basketball for a while there, so he at least was a force on a basketball court for good in some way, shape, or form. For
me, winning a gold medal for USA basketball.
I mean, you would say it's a throw in the dark, but again, he was the highest scorer in USA basketball history for a while there. I mean, he was doing what he was doing at a high level on that stage. But still, yeah. I mean, it's tough to see it.
The greatest players in the history of the world on the court with you.
Hey, that's what I like to think. Yeah. Again,
at that time,
I know you put it in the notes there, I guess, before we get out of here. But talking about Washington, kind of whittling it down.
And they won't say the names
on their names. So they had 8 names that were the 8 finalists. So the 8 names that were the finalists, that the 3 finalists were selected from that we don't know of, is the Armada, the Presidents, the Brigade, the Red Hogs, the Commanders, the Red Wolves, the Defenders, and of course just sticking around being the Washington football team as the 8th one. Of any of those,
Washington FC would be pretty cool.
Actually, Washington FC wouldn't be too bad. It just, I guess, would be confusing for a lot of people who don't necessarily understand.
Run the names by me, and I'm going to stop you on the one I like.
So Armada, Presidents, Brigade, Red Hogs, Commanders, Red Wolves, Defenders, and then Washington football team. I'm out on Presidents, Red Hogs. That's terrible.
Yeah.
And Commanders also doesn't sound great.
Yeah.
So the Armada, the Brigade, and the Red Wolves are kind of interesting.
I like the Red Wolves.
I like the Red
That'd be
Wolves.
my pick.
I love the Red Tails. I thought that would have been a good way to go, but honestly, they're not great.
None of the names are great.
Stick with the football team. I
The
don't like
Washington
any of
football
them.
team?
Yeah, I don't like any of them.
Yeah,
Not my team, so I don't have to worry about it.
Right, exactly. But just be able to make fun of them all the time. So it'd be nice. Obviously, they picked the Presidents. What a terrible name that would be. And see, if they choose the Red Hogs out of all of that, Snyder's got to fold the franchise.
They play bad. They're going to
It's
bring up. Well, they did
done.
they did a Clinton today, or they did a Trump today, or they did and they would start comparing them to actual presidents.
Yeah, presidents would not be good. They say Commanders just doesn't really flow.
No.
The Defenders would be funny just because that's the defunct.
That sounds like an
XFL team. That's exactly what it is. So it would be funny just to carry on that tradition in a really Washington way.
In one of the most loser leagues that ever existed.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Nah, Defenders is gone. That's
so,
off the list. Red Wolves.
I'd say the Red Wolves out of all of those, I like the Red Wolves. I really liked, I said the Red Tails were part of it eventually, but I mean, it seemed like that wasn't a finalist.
But the Red Wolves, you kind of keep a little bit of your history, I guess.
Yeah.
And, Red Wolves would be the one out of them. I guarantee it's one of the three.
I hope so.
Yeah. So we'll see. But
it's going to be the Presidents.
I hope not. Boy, that would be horrible. But
somebody said the Monuments before, which would also be like a really bad one. I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. But it's like all those names. It's like you're so stuck on it. But the problem is like it's really funny because the only team in the NFC East that actually plays in the place that they're named after is the Philadelphia Eagles, because Dallas doesn't play in Dallas anymore,
No.
And obviously the New York team doesn't play in New York at all. They don't play in the right state, and Washington, no matter where they build this new stadium that they're trying to get,
not going to be in D.C.
Not going to be in D.C. So like at least like get a cool name. Don't keep trying to relate it back to D.C. in a way that doesn't make sense.
Having been to that stadium so many times, I would love to be the guy that does that pushes the plunger. That Greg Lazinski got to do. Remember that? I would love to do that. That place is such a crap hole.
My goodness.
It's not as bad as the Vet. The Vet's the worst
Right.
stadium I've ever been in my life. And still to this day, I still remember Jerry Laurie, when he was still new with the team, he would say, the rat-infested Veterans Stadium. It was the best.
That's it. It's like when you got
stick it to the city.
That's right. Yeah, when you got the owner of the team talking about the stadium you're playing like that, then that's up.
Rat-infested.
We'll get the funding.
Went to the last ever Eagles game at the Vet.
Oh man,
I was there.
NFC Championship game against.
You were
the
there?
Bucs. Yeah.
I was at the press box, and the press box actually shook. The only time it's ever shook when
Brian Mitchell.
When Brian Mitchell scored the touchdown.
I blew a blood vessel over my eye.
Well, you should have been in that press room because I thought it was coming down.
Oh, the whole place. Yeah.
It was like I thought it was at a Talking Heads concert.
So
at the
great.
Man, the upper level, because that shakes when they played there. And that was the first time you could feel it shake. It was an earthquake. It literally felt like it was an earthquake.
They probably registered small on the Richter scale.
Oh my God! And you thought they were in, and then Joe Jervicius and.
Rondé Barber, man, running the.
But
He's
Joe
still running
Jervicius-
in my nightmares.
What's his name? Still says that John Gruden. He said he still makes that joke. Joe Jervicius is still running somewhere.
Still running
with that
somewhere.
ball, and that was one of the most disappointing losses since I've been covering the Eagles. Was that game, and the Carolina game was pretty terrible. Depressing.
They weren't expected to beat the Rams.
Weren't expected to beat the Rams. The Bucs obviously were a really great defense, but it's like that Carolina one. I mean, if there's any Super Bowl that really got away from them in that way, I mean, who knows? Because it would have been obviously the same matchup with the Patriots there. But that was one.
The Patriots were beatable.
Yeah,
There's no
they
question
were.
about it.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Delhomme almost did it. Why obviously
I was there.
say anybody else could do it? I mean,
and you would have been there for the. Was that the one where they had the that wasn't the one. I'm trying to think of the halftime. Was that the one where the streaker and they had the malfunction?
That was the Carolina Super Bowl, I believe.
Was the equipment? It was the wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, for
Janet Jackson.
Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
That Bucs that was setting up to be Eagles Raiders 2.
Yeah.
It had everything.
Yeah, and one quick thing we'll get out of here was the wardrobe malfunction outdid one of the most ingenious ways a guy got on the field, and actually was pretty harmless, but he got his butt kicked.
Yeah.
Was he came into the game wearing Velcro under his real, or somehow scammed his way. Someone gave him a front row seat to the Super Bowl. He had a referee's uniform underneath his regular gear. It was all Velcro, so he didn't set off any alarms, right? Mm-hmm. And so he gets there, and at halftime, the seat, whoever hooked us up was amazing. They gave him the seat right near the tunnel where the refs came out, and he just hops over the thing with the ref uniform, and that was the last time they had all-star referee teams because they didn't know each other.
Right.
Nobody caught it. And he goes out and he hands the kicker for Carolina the ball. And then all of a sudden he starts stripping in front of this poor kid standing there with the like I said, it would have been one of the all-time greatest, but Justin Timberlake and
Janet Jackson
out-dueled him. He just this poor astonished kicker is standing there as this guy rips off his clothes. He's down to a jock strap with some casino painted across his ass, and starts running. Yeah,
that's terrible. Obviously, I know Adam Vinatieri is out there for the Patriots. Is that Graham Gano still? Was he out there, or was it even before him?
For Carolina?
For Carolina.
I'm not sure who it was, but just to see the look on this kid's face, the kicker's face, when he hands him the ball, and then he just goes, and the place went wild. So we didn't even notice the wardrobe thing. Nobody in the stadium really, we just heard about it after the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because they were like little ants over there. You wouldn't have noticed if she pulled her flap down or not. She was so far away.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but anyway, we're way over top. I digress. I want to thank Dr. Sean McMillan for being a guest today.
John Casey.
Dr. Conicello for trying to be on here tonight. I'm so sorry. From the Agape Chiropractic Center in Coatesville. And do want to thank you guys, Tom Kelly and Matt Santoleri, for being on the show tonight. And for Nancy Kowalik for sponsoring the show. My name is Al Thompson. And until next time, we'll see you.